o'clock. Okay, good morning, everyone. We will call the meeting to order of the Transportation Committee. To make a non-committee member a part of this committee, the chair. We don't need to do that. We have it. Okay, so we'll go right to physical quorum of the members being present. We'll entertain a motion to permit members A, who's not present due to personal illness, to participate by video. This motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion carries.
Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Chaplin.
Here.
Covert.
Here.
Evans.
Here.
Ozak. Tornatore.
Here.
Zay.
Here.
And we have a quorum. Member Ozag is recovering from taking 3 shots. I asked her last night, but she texted me that she had 3 shots and might not be coming in. What was she drinking? That was her last 3 shots in her arm. So, but she'll be back next week. Do we have any public comment?
We do not.
Okay, moving on to approval of the minutes. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of Tuesday, September 5th, 2023.
So moved. Second.
Motion is second. Any additions, corrections, or deletions? Hearing none, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Approved. Moving on to item 5B, I'll entertain a motion to approve the semi-annual review of the minutes of September 5th, 2023.
So moved. Second.
Motion is second. Any additions, corrections, deletions, questions? Hearing none, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the minutes are approved. Moving on to budget transfers, I'll entertain a motion to approve budget transfer of $183,325 from land right of way 1500-3644-54,000 to refunds and forfeitures 1500-3644-53818. Funds needed for impact fee refund based on an individual assessment agreement in FY 2023.
So moved. Second.
Any questions, comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carries. I'll entertain a motion to approve 23-3023, budget transfer of $3,700,000 from transportation infrastructure 1500-3550-54050, the building construction 1500-3550-54020. Additional funds needed in FY 2023 to cover the majority of the FY 2022 carryover work, which was delayed due to a startup and permitting delays. This motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Carries. Moving on to procurement. I'll entertain a motion to approve DTP 97-23, a recommendation for approval of a contract to HBK Engineering LLC to provide professional surveying, underground locating and marking services and subsurface utility engineering services, section 23 PULMS-04-MS, for a contract total not to exceed $500,000 professional services. There's a motion and a second. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. I'll entertain a motion to combine items 8A, B, and C.
So moved. Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
The items are combined. Moving on, I'll entertain a motion to approve 8A 232903 Verizon contract and WFPO. Number 4311-serve 4 fleet GPS decrease remaining encumbrance in the amount of $74,278.50. Contract expired on 5/31/2023. I'll entertain a motion to approve 23-3007 DTP 1B-21 amendment to resolution DTP 0001-821, issued to Lakeside International LLC to increase the funding in the amount of $30,000, resulting in an amended contract total amount of $210,000, an increase of 16.67%. And I'll entertain a motion to approve DTCO 0045-23, an amendment to purchase order number 6279-serve issued to Peterbilt, Illinois Joliet, doing business as JX Truck Center, furnish and deliver Cummins engine repair and parts as needed for the Division of Transportation to increase the incumbents in the amount of $30,000, resulting in an amended contract total amount of $59,900, an increase of 100.33%. There's a motion and a second that the items is combined. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And the motion passes. Moving on to awarding resolutions, I'll entertain a motion to approve DCR 81-23, an awarding resolution to Mead Inc. for the 2024-2025 traffic signal and streetlight maintenance at various locations within DuPage County, Section 24, TSMTC-04-GM, for an estimated county cost of $4,985,225.44 per lowest responsible bid. There's a motion and a second. Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Moving on to intergovernmental agreements, I'll entertain a motion to approve PTR 82-23, an intergovernmental agreement between the County of DuPage and the City of Darien to replace the existing retaining wall and fencing along the south side right of way of CH 31-Plainfield Road, Cassie Avenue to Linden Avenue. Estimated county cost $187,500. There's a motion and a second. Any questions, comments? God bless you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Entertain a motion to approve DCR 83-23, an intergovernmental agreement between the County of DuPage and the Illinois Department of Transportation for improvements along Illinois 56-22nd Street and Illinois 59 New York Road with a total estimated cost of engineering and construction of $16,044,966 and an estimated county cost of $187,402. For a second.
Second.
Motion is second. All is in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to information, I'll entertain a motion to receive and place on file FMP 81-23, a recommendation for the approval of a contract to United Door and Dock LLC to provide preventive maintenance service and repairs for overhead doors, roll shutters, gate operators, dock levelers, and revolving doors at Stevens County facilities. The facilities management for the 2-year period of November 1, 2023 to October 31st, 2025. The total contract amount not to exceed $209,000 for the lowest responsible bid. There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The items are received. Moving on to discussion, plan of action for regional transportation. You, John?
Yep. Good morning, everybody. I know this has been an ongoing discussion that we've had on plan of action for regional transit. It's taking kind of a significant role in our daily lives here. I think we're the last couple of weeks and heading into the near future. So the part draft report was published and sent to stakeholders on September 1st of this year, just a couple weeks ago. Draft was 126 pages, and the staff went through it fairly extensively to figure out where they are. Their positions have obviously changed and evolved over the course of the year that they've been working on this, and so we spent a lot of time doing the review. So what that review resulted in is a handout that was in front of you today. There's a little 4-pager, kind of crib notes of what's included within the overall document. It's our mission at this is really to try to get wrap our heads around where we are as a county and as a staff in terms of our relationship to the positions that CMAP takes in the document. CMAP is seeking stakeholder comments on the draft by the end of this week, 9/22, a very accelerated timeline for us, obviously. We are contemplating what we will be sending back to them this week. They've already received comments from the collar counties earlier on in August. That is kind of summarized on the first page of the handout for you, where we kind of see the counties kind of agreed and had commonality in our positions related to the CMAP effort. So we'll also collaborate this week, if we can, with the other collar counties and kind of get our stories straight and talk about what we can send back to CMAP by the 22nd. They've also prepared a generic resolution for the MPO policy and board to convey to Springfield and the General Assembly. We're looking at that and kind of wordsmithing that. I suspect there'll be a lot of wordsmithing on that resolution before it's actually signed and sent to Springfield after October 11th, which happens to be the next meeting of the MPO and policy committee and board. So kind of going into the notes pages there, as we previously talked about, CMAP has partitioned their reports into three sections. There's the system that we want, the financing the system, and the governance portions. On the system that we want, which is the second page, it summarizes the contents of the draft plan and kind of that top table. Those are really the key recommendation points that they lay out for us to consider. We're kind of looking over those points and commenting on those and telling you whether or not we agree with them, or if we think that there are some things that we need to really consider, or kind of place a hold on that yellow hand there is going to say, let's think about this a little bit. So we've also indicated things that are missing or underemphasized in the plan, and such things like having a long-term vision for the region's transit system. The report, I think, lacks quite a bit of substance on what it is that we're envisioning for the future, and how how the region is supposed to respond to financial and governance pressures under that particular type of system. Having a broader plan to provide access, and I don't mean accessibility, like disabled accessibility, but having access to, for suburban populations, to transit, and to provide a little bit more expansive services to get to places in Bartlett and West Chicago and other places that they're certainly not served presently. Questions have arisen, related to the system that we want. What's the plan for capital replacement of 100-year-old systems? I mean, we have CTA systems that are running on really ancient rail, a lot of slow zones. What is our plan for actually replacing this? It's very expensive. Moving to finance, turning to finance on page 3, CMAP has settled on 2 financial investment options to forward to the General Assembly, one that they've called the Transformative Investment Program. It's a $1.5 billion in new public revenue per year, which covers the $730 million annual fiscal cliff, which happens to be growing annually, according to their estimates. It also includes $575 million for new service and $600 million for capital investments. And so it's a substantial package, and it really brings to mind, what are we doing in terms of sales tax regionally? What are we doing, with all the other types of revenue packages that are out there? That we've talked about 12 or 13 revenue sources. Obviously, this means major increases in many of those. The second package is called Meaningful Change, $1 billion in new public revenue. It too covers the existing fiscal cliff. It only provides about half of the transformative investments amount for increasing service. And so they had a third possibility, which is just basically hold it steady, basically cover the debt and the fiscal cliff. And that one has been rejected and kind of cast out onto the curb. Under the governance package, they're looking at two governance models: a strengthened RTA, where the service boards remain separate entities with their own executive management, but they would lose service planning, capital planning, and financial stewardship under that particular model. But the providers would still have control of their budgets and procurement. So it moves a lot of that kind of the regional planning, regional effort up into the RTA, kind of embedding those functions up into the RTA where they don't do that presently. The second one, which I think CMAP favors, although it's not entirely clear yet exactly what the outcome will be with Springfield, is the regional entity. In that case, the service providers are all embedded into the regional agency. Basically, they lose their executive boards. They have no independence. There's one regional board, and the service agencies just have responsibilities over operations only. So that's the difference. That it seems a little nuanced, but it's a big deal. Some of the things that we are concerned about is that neither of the solutions really offer more assistance to suburban entities. So we're not really gaining a lot, as we understand it right now, in suburban representation. A regional entity model, with similar regional representation to what we have today, kind of a deficit representation for this, everybody's, west of 294, means that we have some serious questions about allocation of funding ultimately. So when the fear is that, and I think a lot of the service boards feel the same way too, when we get into that type of scenario, becomes kind of a black box, people begin to wonder, are we really just funding CTA and pension and long-term obligation, that they have. So there are many other discussion points that we laid out on those sheets, and welcome your thoughts, comments, questions as we move forward. But we're committed to participating to the maximum amount that we can within the next few weeks. Obviously, October 11th, and helping CMAP kind of move the ball over to the goal line for January 1st, which is when their report is due to the General Assembly.
Great, thank you, John. Any questions of John? Yes, sir.
Thank you for that wonderful presentation. Just really quick, I just want to make sure, I did see plans here, just language here for free youth fairs or discounted fairs. I just want to make sure seniors are going to be taken care of as well, since they're on a budget and just may have a fixed income. And they need to get to their, doctor visits. And
that is mentioned as part of both of those finance packages, is that there would be coverage of disabled, low income, and they really didn't go into much detail about what qualifies. Obviously, the really that level detail yet, but the difference between the two funding packages is that the youth packages, youth fairs would essentially be covered under the transformational investment package. They'd be paid entirely, but they would have to pay under the other option.
what's the plan for seniors?
Seniors, I think, would be covered largely, the 65 pluses would be covered largely under the transformational. Again, not very descriptive about what happens under the other package. So the transformational really covers virtually everything in the fairs.
I'm just wondering if in these conversations, if there's enough, if you feel that there's enough discussion about how it's different in this, our needs are different here in the suburbs than they are. We have fewer people needing to get to the train. We have a lot of seniors that need to get to doctor appointments, and the point to point is probably more important for us than like hub and spoke or whatever they would consider that.
Yeah, very much so. I think, we've laid out in our comments and our letters, that we are different, and that a lot of the desires that we express kind of collectively as suburban organizations are really trying to relate, the on-demand and rideshare services, to the existing, fixed route transit services, and providing an integrated system where basically you get on a bus, you get on a rideshare service, you're paying at one time for end-to-end services. So you're integrating fares, you're integrating transfers, and that's been our position all along. And I think they're largely on board with that. I just, making that happen, I'm not sure how that gets done.
Just add to that, John. What's interesting in the report is two graphics that stood out to John and I. One of them is, if you look at the collar counties, we will see the largest increase in the proportionate number of 65-year-old plus households or households with a 65-year-old kind of running the household in the next 10 to 20 years in the suburbs. So that's going to go way up. So, right, so we're aging in place, I think is the term they use. The other thing is the suburbs, unfortunately, have high employment and very low transit services. And that's another graphic. And so I think the comments that we're putting together on behalf of the county are going to look at that and say, this is why that transformational investment, one of the things that John said, this whole report is very vague on specificity, specific to where the growth in ridership is likely to occur and the growth in seniors is likely to be. And so we're going to certainly comment on that as a way to further bolster the need for transit. We're not going to have more rail per se, but we need those feeder bus systems and those systems that get us from point A to point B, because we don't want to go to the city every day. Our commuting patterns have changed. And so how do we articulate that to CMAQ in a way that hopefully our future General Assembly will act on the recommendations of this report.
I have another question. Is like a public-private partnership at all in these conversations, like those self-driving cars that are in downtown Austin have been really, they've piqued my interest, because after a certain time at night, you know, if you have the app, you can hail a ride, I mean, for free for now, but is that part of the conversation?
Well, noticeably absent, I would say, and we didn't even talk about it last week at the joint meeting. I think all is fair. Autonomous vehicles, electric vehicles, I think are all topics that really need to be discussed. And I think Chris and I are both on board with the idea that we really ought to be thinking about a larger package, you know, for transportation funding and kind of a policy plan, you know, for the region. So we're talking about 8 million people in the region, 5.5 of which are in the suburban areas. I think it really stands to reason that we stand up and comment on things like that, which are important. I think risk taking is certainly absent. Also, one of the things that I've been a little leery about is, you know, we've talked a lot about pilot programs in the past, but nothing has ever happened. So we need to start taking a few more risks and really evaluating how some of these, you know, potential transit services and fare packages, you know, will help us throughout the next 5 to 10 years.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. It was really very involved. On the governance page, I have a question. Under what is missing, it says governance option that includes unique suburban transit organization. And I'm wondering what that means. I'm taking it to mean like the last couple of miles between the train station and where somebody has to work. Am I wrong about that?
It's part of it. It's the on-demand. It's the paratransit services, especially where they're really, you know, they do have a paratransit representative on, you know, in the RTA kind of the service board realm, but really beginning to integrate some of that, and especially in the suburban, you know, areas where it's really critical for our seniors and for our disabled, having those representatives on board to help form policy and practice, and then also for us, and we've also wondered about, you know, where we are as a roadway agency, or where the tollway and IDOT are involved in some of these decisions. They're asking for revenues that would be transportation related revenues coming from, whether it's FFT or from you know, these managed lanes or tollways. Do the counties, you know, DOTs or IDOT and tollway actually have representation to help influence, you know, how transit is funded through those types of programs?
I remember when I first got on the board several years ago, we talked a lot about that last mile.
Yeah.
And I really haven't heard that much about it recently. Are we still focused on that, or what do we think? I mean, is there a plan? Are we working on a plan?
Well, it's interesting because I think PACE is trying a lot of different things. One of the things that they have talked about a lot recently is expanding their on-demand services, which would meet some of that last mile issue. but I don't think they're going to be able to cover the entirety of the county, within a year or two. I think they're going to do it, I think conservatively and move forward kind of one step at a time. But I think that there are areas like York Township that, are probably the first next best on-demand types of locations,
And I
especially.
remember there were a couple of companies that were trying to take that on, they've since gone out of business, I believe, Cherry.
Yeah, I think Pace wants to do that. I think they've realized that those private companies are not, not the greatest, so I think they're going to try to do that. And I think Metro is developing something they call regional rail, and regional rail means to them full day service, back and forth. So it's not entirely directed at central business district travel. So there to be different schedules that will allow people to come from Cook County and in the city to the suburbs with a different schedule that's more conducive to that last mile.
Thank you, John. Yeah, but I'm thinking about those people who live in Naperville and work in Downers Grove or vice versa, and that shorter commute, and how those people actually get to their office building once they get maneuvered through the suburbs by a train or whatever. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
No problem.
Anyone else? Thanks, Jen. Thanks for your hard work and thanks for the report. We got the old business, any old business. New business, and Chris has something for us.
Yeah, I have one item. So the county and the tollway are collaborating on, well, we're all familiar with the Elgin Air Western Access project that we've been collaborating on for many years. And part of that is York Road, which is right by Western Access. And so through an understanding between the county and the tollway, when they were looking at the new interchange that would provide Western Access, it made sense that York Road, which is a county highway and in great need of repair, actually reconstruction, be undertaken at the same time as 390, 490. We don't want Western Access, which we've been hoping for decades, to be available. And then we put a road in front of it under construction. So they have been the lead on the reconstruction of a county highway, York Road, and we'll be bringing forward an agreement for that for our cost share, not only in the design, which they've been carrying the shouldering for now, as well as the ultimate reconstruction. But as part of the reconstruction, we have a 5-foot sidewalk along York Road. And John and Sid worked on a regional bike ped plan for the Elgin area. And both Bensonville and Elk Grove Village have approached the county to say, instead of replacing that 5-foot sidewalk with a 5-foot sidewalk, would you be willing to replace it with something wider, 8 or 10 for a multi-use path? And so I've talked to both public works directors who walked the job. They're supportive of paying the incremental share for engineering and construction. They would also be responsible for coordinating any utilities that weren't going to need to be relocated, as well as land acquisition. The reason I'm bringing it up today is in 30 days I won't be here, and they asked that somehow this be memorialized with the support of the committee, that for us to continue with a framework, a letter of understanding that hopefully would memorialize that before an agreement is put in place. But I just wanted to assure those partner agencies that if this committee is supportive, then we'll continue in that direction.
Yes, I think.
Okay. Then we'll,
I have a question. Does it link anything? What's, if there's that section, what's on either side of that?
so it will go to the north. I know Elk Grove Village has an established path system to the north into Cook County, and to the south is part of the Village of Bensonville's trail network.
Oh.
And so if you're familiar with the corridor, there's a tremendous amount of industry. And actually, when we were walking it, we saw people actually walking, whether it was sidewalk on the sidewalk or whether it wasn't on the shoulder. So we certainly, I think there's a demand for it. And so they would like to kind of memorialize that in some fashion.
I think because, like you said, there is a demand, people want to walk or bike or whatever, and if we have a multi-use larger area for them to do that, safer and everything, so yes, I think it's a good
Definitely on
idea.
the east or west side.
They'll be on the west side.
West side.
Yeah, and ultimately that Western Access, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't there parking for employees at some point going to be there? So obviously you have 10,000 employees that come to here every day with
Right.
various shifts. So the opportunity that this path would provide a multimodal access to kind of where they're coming from It's also a long-term visionary benefit.
In their truck and bike.
So we have a consensus that we're at the committee.
Yeah,
in
that's,
favor
I
of
think
this.
that's what we're looking for, Barb, so
Okay.
that's consensus, it's not a
Yep,
vote.
there was
So,
verbal
okay.
consensus.
All right, any other new business? See any, Mr. Zay, anything? No. Okay, I don't see anything else. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All's in favor?
I
Any opposed? Adjourned.